Hello and welcome to Spotlight on Jackson County. In today's economic times, if you're looking for a fun-filled family destination that's real close to this area, that is steeped in history, a place you can take your children, and if you have a member who's served in the military, it's the USS Battleship Alabama Memorial Park in Mobile, Alabama. I've been there many times. I intend on going back many more, and I assure you it is the place to go down here. It's not that expensive. You can do it all there. There's a submarine, there's an aircraft hangar, there's a Battleship Alabama, and like I said, steeped in history. And we are lucky today here at WKFK to have the executive director of the USS Battleship Memorial Park, Mr. Bill Tunnell. Bill, we do appreciate you making the trip over from Mobile to tell us all about this beautiful memorial park with battleships you've got over.
I'm just really blessed to be here, and thank you for everything that y'all have done for us. And certainly it's a real pleasure to come over and talk about something that I just absolutely find fascinating every time I walk on the decks or walk in the park or in the submarine or aircraft. I mean, it's just so much there that is so intergenerational that we have certainly Battleship Alabama, which was won 9 battle stars in World War II, but you can go today and see aircraft that are still currently flying, and certainly a submarine that we'll talk about in a little while, but actually was the first American submarine ever on public display in the United States. So, and is today still the oldest existing American submarine. So lots of things for lots of people over there. Somebody asked me the other day and says, what's your average attendance, or who's your average visitor? I said, well, I've seen babies 4 months old, and I've seen 90-year-old men at the same time, and all of them enjoyed it. So it's a great opportunity, probably America's most unique military attraction here, sitting 30 miles away from your visitors.
Right, it's a great place to go.
Yeah, but like I said, I know that you're very familiar with it, and like I said, it's we're delighted. You know, Battleship Alabama did have a great service record, and served in the North Atlantic, the only ship ever awarded or ever honored by the former USSR for protecting the Russian fleet on the Murmansk run in the North Atlantic. And Battleship Alabama was actually commissioned in August of 42, and in the spring of 43 was in the North Atlantic with ice and snow on the deck, and protecting the British and the Russian fleets up there. And so, like I said, we were very fortunate to have endured that. I know that the sailors said it was a real shock when they went from minus or zero weather to come back through Norfolk and go to the South Pacific where it was 120. So
yeah,
if you can only imagine.
And there was no air conditioning in that ship in World War II.
They had forced ventilation, which is a fancy way to say that the air stirred every now and then. But it is, and I can tell you, even today with air conditioning on Alabama, that it still gets mighty hot out there, and we don't get to 120 degrees like it did in the South Pacific. But yeah, she's a great ship, and just absolutely amazing how large the ship is, how many people, 2,500 men to sleep on a ship that was 680 feet long and 108 feet 2 inches wide, and a total of 194 feet tall. So, but we're just extremely proud to have her in Mobile, and happy to say that we've had more than 13 million visitors since 1965 when we opened, and she really is something to see. And I know that, you know, the great thing about having local folks and talking to our friends that are locally is that so many times is that we went on a 4th grade field trip, and now we're 50 years old and hadn't been back. So like I said, it is really interesting to see what's there, and to take your time and to go actually put yourself back in time to where you were maybe a 19-year-old young man on the battleship, and you know, this was your life and your world for, you know, the next 3 years.
Well, you know, it's one thing for kids to read about it in a book or on the internet, more likely, but to actually step on the deck.
Oh yeah.
And then to see that those are wooden teak decks, and then to go down below and and see the galley, see those small offices, see the inside of turret 2 where you have it all opened up, where you can see the actual operating and how the shells were stored and how the powder magazine sent it up the powder hoist. You can't beat that. That you cannot beat.
Living history at its finest, right there.
That is it.
You know, I only wish that we had hundreds of volunteers where we could have reenactment or of just people in those areas. We're unfortunate that unlike a lot of ships, like the aircraft carrier Midway, where in San Diego they've got 500 retirees, and 200 of them are from that ship, and 200 of them actually work down in the engine rooms or whatever. We don't have that opportunity because our ship was only in commission from August the 16th, 1942 to January the 9th, 1947. So our youngest existing crewman is 82 this year. And all those guys, there was only 6,322 men that served on that ship during the time that she was active. And so when she went into mothballs in 1947, our opportunity to have young volunteers who actually served on the ship disappeared.
Well, I was privileged because when the Battleship Iowa was in Ingalls Shipbuilding at the end to be overhauled, I did a lot of work on it with the Navy, and I made 2 cruises on the Battleship Iowa. Got to see the 16-inch guns go off, which was an absolutely impressive thing.
Yeah.
I, took my camera as close as I could get. I'd never seen one go off. And then after the first one, I was looking for a place to go to get the heck away from it. And then when the Battleship Wisconsin came in, I was, again, fortunate enough to interconnect with the journalists on there. And I spent a lot of time on the Wisconsin and got to see virtually every aspect of those battleships and actually go out on the Wisconsin again. So, and I watched turret number 3, barrel number 2 of USS Wisconsin fire a 2,800-pound shell 32 miles.
Wow. Oh.
And to look at those big projectiles and to tell, I've talked to people on the Battleship Alabama before, say 6 110-pound bags of powder behind that projectile can fire it about 30 miles. And they are just astounded. How far is 30 miles? Almost from here to Pascagoula, Mississippi.
That's right. That's right. That's the interesting thing about that. And this is 60 or 70, 80-year-old technology that they're using to do this. Now, obviously, they can't today's with firing missiles 1,500 miles and can hit the logo on your shirt is far different. But at the same time, it's just the sheer complexity. But also people don't realize our guns were not as big as Iowa class, slightly smaller. 6 90-pound bags of powder, silk encased powder, and to fire one 2,700-pound projectile accurately to 20.97 miles. And people will say, well, how did it do it? Well, the guys back on the ship in World War II called the gun directors computers back then, which is, it's just absolutely amazing to me that term was even before. We think about telephones not being computers or the laptops and everything. It's just such a way of life. But they called those gyroscopic gun directors computers back then. And the beautiful, as you probably know, is that the beauty of the American battleship is that we had the ability to lock that gun on target. And once it locked on target, it didn't matter what the ship did, the gun stayed locked on target, where the Japanese and the Germans didn't have that ability. And so we could shoot with accuracy. Their guns could shoot further than we could until the Iowa class came into service. But it's just amazing to think of that. Of course, the submarine guys call it a slow-moving target, but to think that our surface ships had the ability to bomb something that 20 miles away, and in today's world, 20 miles and the distance from Mobile to Pascagoula being 30 is, it's hard to fathom that was the extent that we could fire, but we could fire accurately, and that's won the war.
But the great thing about the battleship is that all of these things we're talking about, you can actually go see.
Oh yeah.
And experience.
Exactly.
And get close to, and there is a smell of a Navy ship that you never seem to get away from, and to see how those guys live. They didn't have A lot of them had bunks, but a lot of them had to hang hammocks up.
Mhm.
And the huge galley is still there. See where they cooked and how they ate. There's the Geedunk stand with
Yep.
the ice cream and that kind of stuff. In just the machinery rooms, you could fix anything on that battleship in
You
that
had to be.
machine shop. You had to be self-sufficient.
That's right. You know, that's the thing is that now with our new curatorial staff is just going through the ship and just changing so many things. We've redone the galley where now we used to have it open. Now we put up plexiglass and put out displays of where one side of the galley now is set up for breakfast that they would have had that morning. The ovens are now simulating that they've just opened them up, and the light red glare is coming out of there, and of course we get aroma in there, we'd have it made. But it's just really, as we now are trying to really take that person back into what it was really like, instead of just seeing it and saying, wow, what was it like, is that now when you go into the radio room, is that every radio that we have now in Radio Central is operational. And that was all done by one of our former crewmen that for all these years after he got out of communications on the battleship, is that's been his life occupation of working in and repairing all this equipment. And you go down inside the ship off the tour routes, and you can go down to some of these big transmitters and big transformers that we got, and it's serial number 2. I mean, it's literally vintage, brand new things. They kept saying that every time they came back to port, that there was always some retrofits, that they were continually upgrading radar, and they were continually, I mean, most folks don't realize this, and it actually finally, a few years ago, the Navy admitted, or acquiesced, I guess, because we peppered them for 50 years, but it's that there was a great naval battle by the name, or aerial battle by the name of the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot.
Yes.
And Alabama's radar that was installed at sea by her crew, the SK-2 radar, actually got the first warning at 190 miles distance. And the radar they had previously never read anything more than 140 miles out. And so they read it and they reported it to the other ships in the task force. At 140 miles out, Battleship Iowa, echoed that we've got the same blip, but that was far enough to get everybody mobilized, where the American fleet was able to take off in the carriers and destroyed most of the Japanese aerial incoming invasion, which was very similar to what Pearl Harbor was in December 7, 41. Downside from that for the Japanese is that by that time they lost more than 80% of their aircraft, and it gave rise to the kamikaze pilot movement, because then they only had to teach them to take off. They didn't have to teach them how to land. So, and of course, obviously, with if you look at all the great American ships that were hit and damaged or destroyed by kamikaze pilots, those people were very good at what they did.
Yes, they were. We're going to take a short break right here. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more Spotlight on Jackson County right after this. Welcome back to Spotlight on Jackson County. We've got a very exciting guest today, Mr. Bill Tunnell from the USS Battleship Alabama Memorial Park, and you got to go over there. That's all I can say. Welcome back there.
Hey, delighted to be here.
We were talking about the battleship, and I told everybody it's steeped in history. He was telling you some of that history. Just you need to go over there and experience it firsthand. But we were going to talk about the submarine.
Yeah, you know, like I said in the first half, is it talking about submarine USS Drum. Interesting story. That of course, with the battleship had come, and we'd opened up in 1965, and the chairman of the Battleship Commission at that time was a fellow by the name of Henry Aldridge, and Henry was good friends with Admiral Eller, Cap Eller, who was the head of naval history. And anyway, Cap called Henry up one morning, and he says, well, Henry says, we got the submarine Drum up here that's been, after she was decommissioned after World War II, she's been up here in the Potomac River in Washington as a training sub, et cetera. And, you know, we really think that she'd be a great addition to the park. I'd like for y'all to consider taking her. And Henry said, well, gosh, Cap, that's really great. Says, when do I need to let you know? He says, well, anytime before 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So, but needless to say, the transaction was made May the 18th, 1969. Submarine drum came into Mobile Bay and was dedicated on July the 4th, 1969. And as I mentioned earlier, is the oldest American submarine that it still exists. She was second in tonnage sunk in eighth in tonnage sunk in World War II with 15 vessels and over 80,000 tons of enemy tonnage. And a great impressive record, 12 battle stars, actually more decorated than Battleship Alabama. And you can visit her 364 days a year, stem to stern, go in the front, go all the way through, be a little agile, I guess, because as you know, is that the compartments are a little smaller than they are on the battleship.
I was going to say there's a big contrast between the living conditions on the battleship and comparing it to the submarine.
And the battleship looks very spacious compared to once you get inside.
It looks like a huge condo compared to this small efficiency apartment.
But the great thing about the drum, only 253 men served on that vessel total, and 13 war patrols. She actually was commissioned on November the 1st, 1941, and was the first new American submarine to get to Pearl Harbor after December the 7th. So, and she, like I said, was involved in most of the major campaigns, and like I said, you can see her. She's just absolutely beautiful now. We've been restoring the interior of drum for some time now. They actually shot a video or a movie on there that will be coming out very, very soon called Sea Viper, and it's like I said, more information on that forthcoming. But we're now outside working on the hull of the sub, and yes, you can call her the boat because the battleship's always a ship, but the submarine will always be a boat. And the boat's port side has been done that faces the parking lot. Starboard side, and we're now working on port side, which is away from that. And we brought her out of water in 2001 and put her on land. And we'll have people that even today have not seen her on land will have come in, bought tickets, seen this shape sitting out there, walk up the gangway onto the battleship, look over into water where the submarine used to be, and says, they used to have a little boat over there. I wonder where it is. Not realize that the submarine is longer than a football field and weighs about 1,500 tons, or a little more than 3 million pounds. So, but put on land to preserve her forever, or as long as we can. And like I said, she's in better shape than she's been in a long time. So happy to have that. And in fact, we always get excited in the June time period, because normally on about the third weekend of June, the drum crew comes back for their annual reunion. And I think we got 14 of the guys that are going to be back this time. And like I said, they're, even with the battleship crew, they're up in their 80s and 90s, but they still love that boat, and they're coming to back to Mobile to see her.
Oh, the love of those boats and ships never go away for the sailors. Never. And they call the submarine service the silent service for a couple of reasons. But I think that there's not a whole lot of knowledge out there. People do not realize what those submarines did.
That's right.
As far as winning that war in World War II.
Very much so.
They were cutting the Japanese supplies off so much that targets got almost impossible to find toward the end of the war.
Well, that's what, and here's another thing, is the technology, the torpedo technology was very, very bad and they literally would fire more duds than they fire hits that actually detonated. Right. So like I said, it's the submarine service is, you're exactly right, was integral and incredibly key to our success in the South Pacific.
If it hadn't been for them, it'd been a whole lot harder than it was.
Oh yeah, gosh, it's just amazing. And in those conditions, once you get inside that submarine, to think that these submarines like drum weren't like the nuclear submarines that you have today. Like there's the SSBN 731 USS Alabama can go out right now and stay under the water for 6 months at a time if they wanted to. These submarines were only designed to stay down about 24 hours. They only had battery capacity to operate at any type of depth for that length of time. In fact, on Drum's first patrol, she sank a seaplane tender, which is a pretty prized target, off the Battle of Midway. And when she went down, of course, the destroyers came in as doing depth charges on her, and they literally left that submarine for dead after 24 hours because their intelligence said that they could only last that long. Thank God as we know, because Drum is sitting in our parking lot or off our parking lot, is that she did come back. But that was you talk to those guys that were on that first patrol and to say, what was it like? And if you can just imagine for 24 continual hours of boom, boom, and the ship or the boat being shaken, that takes a special kind of person.
Not knowing when the next one might put you down
right.
forever.
That's right.
And those were diesel electric boats, which meant you had diesel engines that ran on the surface, and you had to charge batteries when you were on the surface, and everything below was battery. So yeah, that's really a unique piece of history you all need to go see. You
That's
really
right.
do, and your kids will love it, by the way.
Well, the beautiful thing about Battleship Memorial Park, 175 acres, open 365 days a year at 8 o'clock every morning. The only time we're closed is Christmas Day, and of course for the occasional tropical disturbance that might come through. But and that we're just hoping and praying that nothing happens this year. But the great thing with the battleship, we've got the surface Navy. With the submarine, we've got the underwater Navy. And with aircraft, we not only have the Navy well represented, but most folks don't realize that we represent all branches of the United States Armed Forces. So consequently, you got Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and the Marines. And no particular order there for any of your viewers, but like I said, it just happens to come. It comes out different every time, so that's all right. But the great thing about it is that we've got now 25 aircraft that literally are from World War II all the way through aircraft that are flying today. In fact, your viewers probably be surprised to know that we are the only place in the world at this time, and probably ever will be, that has an F-14, F-15, F-16, YF-17, and an FA-18. And the only place in the world to have the 14 through 18 collection, because there were only 2 YF-17 Cobras built for the Navy, and that is the prototype aircraft for the FA-18 Hornet that's flying today. And our Hornet is actually the first Navy combat veteran Hornet that fired rockets into Libyan defenses back when we paid a little visit on Mr. Gaddafi back in 1986. So great collection, and I think something for everything. And a lot of people don't realize, and I get in thinking about inside the aircraft pavilion with which is air conditioned, by the way.
Yes.
And of course the submarine's air conditioned, as well as most portions of the battleship. But last year we had a great visitor to come to become a permanent resident. Is that we had a group from Fallon Naval Air Station in northern Nevada that brought and made the last Navy Huey flight from northern Nevada down to Mobile, and we have now sitting in the aircraft pavilion a Huey helicopter that looks like a rescue helicopter right now. It's orange and white, and you sit there and say, well, what's significant about this? Because this particular helicopter was used as Marine One and actually flew Presidents Nixon, Ford, and Reagan. And so it will be restored this year back to its presidential configuration of, in fact, we even have somebody that has given us a jar of Reagan's favorite Jelly Bellies, and we're going to have it sitting in that helicopter. So it's really we've really got some incredible aircraft. In fact, we've got an RF-8 Crusader that's actually took the pictures at the start of the Cuban Missile Crisis. So a lot of very famous aircraft now are popping up in our collection, and you come in and you see you're startled to see a B-52 Stratofortress sitting off the parking lot. And I always tell everybody because we've got an F-4 Phantom jet that flies 1,600 miles an hour on top of our entrance sign. I always talk about we have the world's fastest entrance sign. So, but just a great collection of artifacts. We're in the process of just took our P-51D Mustang that's dedicated to Tuskegee Airmen out of the pavilion yesterday. She's was severely damaged in Katrina, and as was most of our stuff. But like I said, she'll be painted this summer and go back to her glory. And like I said, speaking of Katrina, we had more than $7 million of damage, and the park was physically closed for 4.5 months. And for a self-supporting park is that that literally almost crippled us and took us under. Thank God we had enough reserve where we were able to keep our employees working and cleaning up things, and we were able to reopen on January the 9th, 2006. Ironically, was the anniversary of January the 9th, 1965, of the opening date of Battleship Memorial Park. And also for the third part of January the 9th is that we actually were decommissioned from the Navy on January the 9th, 1947. So a lot of good things happening on January the 9th, which we had last year we had a 5K run, and the temperature was about -2 at kickoff.
Wow.
when the gun shot. But yeah, Katrina dealt us a heck of a blow, and we're just happy to have responded now. We had 24 aircraft that day, 4 of which were destroyed and 17 more with major damage. And everybody hears about how brutalized New Orleans was, and everybody forgets about the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and nobody thinks that Mobile had damage as well. But it popped us pretty well.
You did. We got about 30 seconds left, Bill. Is there anything you want to leave our viewers with?
Well, just to say that we exist to honor and remember everybody who has fought for this country. I mean, we honor and remember those members of the United States Armed Forces, because you and I couldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
You're exactly right about that.
If somebody hadn't given all. We had 9,583 men that gave everything from the start of World War in combat, from the start of World War I all the way through the end of the year 2000, and it's just please come pay homage to them and remember what they did for us, because America wouldn't be here in the way that it is now. And God bless each and every one of them, and I hope your visitors will come see us and get that same feeling when they walk away that, golly, wonderful people did this for me.
Exactly, and they're still doing that for us, folks.
You better believe it.
They're still doing that for us.
Every day.
Matter of fact, my son's doing it right now.
God bless him.
Bill, I do appreciate you coming
Doug,
over. I've enjoyed this so much.
Listen, y'all are always welcome, and thank you for everything that your station has done for us in capturing the histories of these guys and ladies that have served so diligently and so well. And as they say, our hearts goes out to each and every one of them, past and present and future.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. And thank you for watching this very exciting Spotlight on Jackson County. Join us again next time for another exciting show. We'll see you then.